Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Disgruntled Millennial portion of the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. Of course, I am Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And we were just talking about Donald Trump's mental health. Dr. Bandy Lee, a Yale psychiatrist, has basically come out, put her reputation and her career on the line by basically holding a conference in which she gathered a whole bunch of other psychiatrists who are holding their careers on the line, apparently, and basically all decided to collectively that Donald Trump is an insane person. Of course, they all met with him and, did intensive therapy sessions. And of course, they arrive at this conclusion after some careful experiments. They tested his brain scans. They did MRIs and EEGs, and they got all the best. No, they didn't do any of that stuff. A bunch of folks, a bunch of hack leftist psychiatrists who probably have made careers out of screwing up their patients got together to have a big circle wank in a conference where they basically talked about how awful Donald Trump is and how awful half of America is. Not only is Donald Trump insane, but half of America is insane. When asked by Salon.com, what are the 2 or 3 things that you could cite about Donald Trump's behavior that causes you the greatest concern, worry, or alarm? Dr. Bandy Lee goes, there are certainly the symptoms that he displays. He has a great need for adulation. He is angry if reality does not meet his needs. People have been expecting him to settle into his role and become more presidential. But that does not ordinarily happen among those with such personality traits. In fact, what we were seeing here is a creation of his own reality, a reality that will meet Trump's own emotional needs and the needs to impose that reality on others. It is his imperviousness to facts and reality that could place us all at great risk. And who are the fearmongers, folks? Are the conservatives really the fearmongers? Oh, Islamophobia. Oh, they're just afraid of Muslims. They're afraid of Islam. No, they're chopping people's heads off and raping women and have no concern for women's rights or human rights. There's 61 Muslim countries, like 4 of them are decent, sort of civilized. But no, we're fearmongers. But this lady, one psychiatrist, gets together with a few other psychiatrists, looks at a couple YouTube videos of Donald Trump because they never even met the guy, and then they decide that he is mentally defunct. They decide that he's mentally impaired. And they base this on their experience as doctors. Dr. Bandy Lee, of course, she is the ringleader of this circus. When she was asked, on one hand, he can just be cantankerous and moody and angry, spoiled child, right? I mean, I've described him as a man-child or a clown king, but how do we separate that from saying, okay, there's something going on clinically? That's a great question. How do we know if there's something going on clinically? And she says, one does not make the other mutually exclusive. In fact, one can both be immature and a jerk, dangerous and ill-intentioned. In other words, bad as well as mad. This answers the question I had asked earlier. Well, wasn't he he was, just 2 days ago, he was an evil genius mastermind, and now he's just an incompetent, crazy person. I guess she answered that question. She said it's really the combination that makes it so toxic and unpredictable that we felt that there was a need to speak out. The interviewer says, how should the Goldwater rule, the ethical requirement not to diagnose a person you have not examined, be balanced with mental health professionals' responsibilities as American citizens and members of the global community? Wow. Did you hear how loaded that question is? How should the Goldwater rule, the ethical requirement to not diagnose a person you have not examined, be balanced with the mental health professionals' responsibilities as American citizens? Okay, that's a great question. A little bit loaded, if you ask me. I mean, I don't think that mental health professionals have a responsibility to the global community. They have a responsibility to their patients. They have a responsibility to the people whom they treat. And Dr. Bandy Lee answers that loaded question saying what we all might think she would say. She said, in an ordinary situation where matters were not so intense, we could balance out our political activism and separate that from our professional goals and actions. But when there is such a grave mental disability, How do you know it's a grave mental disability? You haven't seen him. She says, when there is such a grave mental disability that it's affecting the public sphere, the political sphere, such as in the current position of power, then those lines get blurred. Given that all human health exists in an ecological system, there is no rule that politics will never enter the sphere of health or the mental health profession. Right now, we're seeing that it does. All right, listen to her words. Human health exists in an ecological system. First of all, that's very collectivist. When I eat, you don't get full. When you eat, I don't get full. That's because we're individuals. My health is independent from your health. Now, she obviously acknowledges that the Goldwater rule has some value, the ethical requirement that requires you not to diagnose a person if you have not examined them. No! Donald Trump's mental health issues are so blaring, so out there, so in the public sphere, and Dr. Bandy Lee is such a good psychiatrist that she doesn't have to acknowledge the Goldwater rule because the problem is so dire. It is such a dire situation that she is going to go outside of her realm as a doctor and diagnose someone that she's never even examined in her life. Probably never even sat in a room with the guy. What's her rationale? She says, we have a president who asks, what's the point of having nuclear weapons if we cannot use them? Who urges the government to use torture or worse against prisoners? Who urges his followers at political rallies to beat protesters up so badly that they'll be taken out in stretchers, and suggests that his followers could always assassinate Hillary Clinton if she were to be elected. There is something very wrong here. I agree there's something very wrong here. What's very wrong here is that none of that is true. Other than the part that he asked, what's the point of having nuclear weapons if we cannot use them? And I agree. It's a good question. Nuclear weapons should be on the table. It's what you call a deterrent. If you tell your kid that you're never, ever going to spank them, no matter what they do, you are going to have a kid who misbehaves. Saying that it is possible, saying that it is within the realm of possibilities to use nuclear weapons is not the same as declaring war on a country and lobbing a nuclear weapon over there and obliterating an entire society. Otherwise, all the other stuff she said is not true. It's all lies. But you know what? This whole clinically diagnosing random people who you've never diagnosed, that sounds fun. I want to try it. Why shouldn't we all try it? Next time you see a person you don't like, just say that they're mentally ill. Just say that they're crazy. Why can't I? Why can't I diagnose the president? Why can't I diagnose whoever I want to? This lady is diagnosing the president on practically nothing. I mean, I could diagnose anyone I see on TV. I could diagnose a celebrity, right? I could diagnose Tom Cruise with having narcissist personality or some sort of personality disorder, right? Doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it ethical, and it doesn't mean that this lady shouldn't lose her license. Of course, Salon is treating her like this brave, outspoken person. She's so brave for coming out and using her superpower psychological skills to diagnose the president of the United States when she hasn't even seen him. That's a real skill, right? And the sycophants over at Salon.com said, why do you think more of your peers haven't spoken out about these concerns? Are they afraid of professional consequences, personal threats of violence? And she says, one of my colleagues said this was not the way she wished to spend her life. In other words, to spend the rest of her life paying for an expression of her opinion by fighting lawsuits, by fighting for her license. There was a fear of having her license taken away. Yes, the fear was present then, and it is still present now, as it should be. Yes, there's a reason why you're not supposed to diagnose people who you haven't seen yet, because it's impossible. And this is the kind of doctor that CNN likes to tout. This is the kind of doctor that Salon, those left-wing hatchet pieces, those left-wing hatchet sites, they're trying to convince you that it's real news, that you're actually getting information, that you are getting some semblance of truth. It's not truth. I know all of us has one of these. We all have one of those friends, one of those exaggerators, right? One of those people who exaggerates so much little things become catastrophic. Oh my God, I got cut off at the grocery store today, and this guy pulled out the window and blah, 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 blah. And it was this big, awful thing, and I felt so triggered, and it was just this awful, terrible thing, when really it was just some guy looked at her cross-eyed. This is what the left is doing. This is what they are doing to themselves. Imagine how you feel about that friend. Imagine the credibility that you ascribe to that friend. You can only cry wolf so many times before people stop believing you. If everything is racist, then nothing is racist. If everything is catastrophic, important, end of the world gravitas, then nothing is. And I have a feeling that this is why the left is so prone to violence these days. It's because they know their arguments don't work. Their plan B, which is calling everyone a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, has, that card has been played. What is left for them to do but to put on masks, raise their cities to the ground, and get violent? Not much. We'll be right back.
Kevin Jackson
on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.